Hello, friends. I want to call you guys my friends, but I don't want to turn this into a parasocial relationship. Welcome to, because that would be unhealthy for you. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you watched my last video. If you did that, good job. You should also like and subscribe and comment and share if you want. Today, I am going to be sharing, speaking of sharing, I'm going to be sharing the 4 books I read in December, and that includes cozy fantasy, Greek mythology retellings, or just a Greek mythology retelling, and a dystopian. I'm super excited to talk about it with you, so let's get on into it. So the first book that I finished in December is Catching Fire, the second book in the Hunger Games trilogy. And I actually already talked about this in my last video, so I won't be talking about it that much in this video. But basically, I was disappointed. So here's the context as to why. I went into the first book with like medium expectations. I don't know. And I didn't expect it to be 5 stars, but it was. And it was also my first 5 stars of the year in December. No, in November. So like I read all these books and then finally in November I had a 5-star read. It sounds really shocking, but I read about like 4 books per month, and in the beginning of the year I was like in a self-help kind of phase. Like I was more into those self-help books. So I didn't exactly enjoy them. I was just reading them like to get information. So that's partly the backstory as to why. But yeah, and then I went into the second book with high expectations because I thought that I would like it just as much as the first one, but I didn't. And the main reason why is because it was slow. Like, I have no patience for slow-paced books. It's really bad. Actually, do I have patience for slow-paced books? I kind of feel like I do, but with this one, I don't know. I don't know if I have patience with slow-paced books. I just know that I'm not a fan of it, and usually that makes me want to, like, put down the book. So, yeah. It was too slow-paced just because it took so long. Like, the first, third, or fourth was just setting up everything, and, like, the main characters weren't doing anything. They weren't going into the games yet, or yeah, it was no action. We were just reading about their lives and like their plans and stuff like that, and it was kind of boring, the first part. So that's the main reason I gave it 4 stars. Overall, it's pretty decent book, and it's still the Hunger Games, so it still ranks high in like the overall books that I read in 2023. The second book that I finished in December is The Very Irregular Society of Witches. And this book you've probably heard of because it's one of those cozy fantasy books that have been pretty popular lately, or at least earlier in the year. This book follows our protagonist, Mika Moon, who is a member of a group of witches, and they're basically only allowed to meet once in a couple of months in the year. They aren't allowed to keep in touch with each other outside of their meetings. So it's pretty strict. They aren't allowed to talk to each other. And in her free time, Mika makes YouTube witchy tutorials and videos. So then one day she gets a mysterious message that asks her to come to Nowhere House to teach 3 witches who are still children. That's basically all you need to know. That's the summary, the synopsis, if you wanted it. So let's talk about how I felt about it. So let's see. The plot dragged in the middle of the book, which if you just watch the last part, you know I hate it when books are slow. It makes me not want to finish it. And then there was also italics on like every page, which was just unnecessary. Like, seriously, we didn't need all those italics. But it was wholesome. So what I liked about it was that the vibes were very cozy. It was very atmospheric. But ultimately, it was just too cheesy for me. And also, I also like the diversity. I kind of liked this book overall. It was okay for me. Kind of liked it. So I gave it 3 stars. So the next book that I read in December is Circe. And I did not like it. And I know this is an unpopular opinion because lots of people love this book. And I just want to preface this by saying that I really, really loved Song of Achilles, but this one just didn't do it for me. So let's talk a little bit about why. So first, I'll tell you what it is about, and I'll leave the timestamp if you want to skip to that, if you don't want to get spoiled by the synopsis. But Circe is, even though this is a no spoiler synopsis, Circe is the daughter of Helios, and she's described as a strange child. She isn't accepted by her siblings, families, relatives, or really anyone around her besides the mortals she encounters, who later turn on her as well. And in the beginning of the book, we witness her getting bullied by everyone. And that made me very frustrated because I wanted to see Circe stand up for herself, but she took more of a passive role. Eventually she gets banished to this faraway island, and then we follow her life on the island. So reasons why I didn't like Circe. First of all, it was very, very slow paced. And that was made even more so, like it was emphasized because Circe was just stuck on this island the whole time. Like she did go on like some adventures off the island, like to do things, but mostly we just see her in the same location, and that just added to the monotonous feeling of on and on and on. We're also introduced to so many Greek gods and goddesses who just play a really minor role in this story. It seems like they don't have much significance to the actual plot and Circe's character development, yet we're introduced to them anyways, which just like, why? We don't need to know about them. And then I would have liked to see Circe grow more. She did do some actions that made me proud of her as a character, but I needed to see a little bit more from her. Overall, I don't think her personality really spoke to me, so I don't think I really meshed with her as a character. Like, I don't really, yeah. And then, also, I like Madeline Miller's writing in The Song of Achilles and Galatea, but in this book, for some reason, I found it to be a bit flowery. And I know that her writing is very, like, eloquent and advanced and stuff, but it just, as a reader, it was kind of hard to get through because there was names of plants, flowers, herbs. I didn't need to know all the names. I wanted to know, like, I needed the actual, like, meat and bones of the story, not, like, all the extra stuff. There was also a point where some sentences were just so confusing to me. I was reading this on Kindle, so I was literally, like, highlighting the sentence and commenting a question mark. So that was, like, a personal problem, probably just because her writing was too advanced for me, but yeah. So overall, I gave this book no rating, and I explained my rating system in my last video, which is basically 5 stars, loved it, 4 stars, liked it, 3 stars, kind of liked it, 2 stars or 1 stars, I don't give a rating because I don't see a point in it. Like if I didn't like it, then I just don't give it any rating at all. So it might seem harsh that I'm not giving Circe a rating, but that's just how I feel about it personally. Like, I didn't like it, so I'm not going to choose between 2 or 1 stars. Wow, we are nearing the end of the video, but the final book I read in 2023 is The Language of Thorns, Midnight Tales and Dangerous Magic by Leia Bardugo. So this was a young adult fantasy, and it's basically a collection of short story retellings. The book takes place in the Grishaverse, and if you're wondering, I haven't read the Shadow and Bone series. I also haven't read the Six of Crows series. I'm planning to read it sometime this year or next year, depending on all the books on my TBR, because right now I have like 300 something, which I might need to narrow down, but there's just so many books that I want to read. So this book, as I mentioned, is a collection of 6 short stories, and these short stories are inspired by mythologies and fairy tales that you've probably read before, like Hansel and Gretel, The Little Mermaid, and more. So what I liked about this short story collection was the unexpected plot twist and the dark turns the story took, because yeah, it's pleasant to be surprised. And these are retellings of mythologies and fairy tales, so it takes a completely different direction than you were expecting. But one thing that I personally felt like was that since there were short stories, we didn't spend enough time with the characters for them to develop complexity. I think this is a really fun, atmospheric, cozy, and dark book, but I just kind of liked it. It wasn't anything too special to me. My favorites were Fajerdin, When Water Sang Fire, and The Witch of Duva. Overall, I would give it 3 stars, and I would recommend it to you if you like folk tales, fairy tales, mythology, things like that. This video took 2 hours to film, so I really hope you guys enjoyed it, and thanks for watching to the end. I'll see you guys next time, and I hope you stick around.